If you're like me, one of the things that you probably hate doing a lot of the time is admitting fault. Admitting that you have come to some conclusion or done something that for which you're to be blamed and at fault. I think pretty much everybody has a hard time with that. There are some people who are probably a little better at it because they've come to realize, as I've come to over the course of time, though I'm still not great at it, that when you're forced to admit fault, it means that you also should be able to sort of be free to work on fixing that fault. Hello and welcome to the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I'm your host. I'm Kurt. Today is Monday, the 1st of March of 2021, and I'm glad to have people here, whether they're on Rumble, on the podcast, or on YouTube. Thank you for joining me today. As I say, the subject, I haven't said it, but I think you can probably determine from what I have said to this point that the subject of today's little video is admitting fault. Okay? And I want to say, that it can be a pretty hard thing to do. And I think the better you get at it, the better off you are. That is to admit, not just, look, we all make mistakes, right? But when we do something for which fault can be found, whether it's a single mistake or worse yet, a life choice or whatever, it's awfully hard to admit that fault. And I learned early on that I wasn't very good at it. And I'll just tell you that now. In fact, I fail at it regularly today. I try very hard not to. It irks me when people find fault in me. That's a reality. I don't like it, but it's true. People find fault, and I have to stop myself from snapping back at them rather than looking at what they're saying and going, yeah, you know what, this person found fault and I need to deal with it. Here's the thing. Anybody who watches my videos will know that I'm very prone to say that. That's why I kind of chuckle when I do it. It's really an important thing to get to do. It's really important to get to the point where you can assess a situation, have somebody find fault in you, or better yet, find fault in yourself and work to correct that which you have done or are doing badly or wrongly. It's very important. Now, I wrote in my notes, nobody wants to admit he or she has them, but we all do. And I think that, the older I get, the more willing I am to admit that I have them. I don't want to, it's true, still, for me. But I have to admit it, and I know that I have to admit it. And so whether or not I want to, I still do it. I still admit it. And there are other people who I think have come to a conclusion that I'm rapidly coming to myself. And that conclusion basically is, look, admitting you have faults amounts to being able to correct them. If you refuse to admit you have faults to begin with, it's going to be darn hard for you to actually take the time to correct them. And that's particularly true the bigger or more severe or serious the fault is. And I mean, that's, this is just how that works, right? This all came to light to me again when I was dealing with someone and I I got into a situation where I was dealing with someone. The person that I was dealing with, I thought was less able in a certain regard than I was. And it turns out that not only were they pretty able in that regard, but in point of fact, they were able in a lot of regards. And certain of the things that they did showed me multiple failings in my life, multiple faults that I had to deal with. And I didn't like it, I promise you. And for a little while there, I got all out, not outraged exactly, but irked, bothered. And I started to look at things and I started to ask myself this question. The question is what this person said correct? Well, and here's the thing. Let me just point something out. In many instances, they literally didn't say anything directly at all. In some instances, they sort of showed me my own fault, but in lots of instances, they didn't even say anything. They just acted in ways that clearly delineated where I was lacking. Okay, that's what they did. They provided that all important example that made it so that I could see, look, dude, you've got issues and you need to deal with them. And so the funny thing about it is, what really irked me, what really made me sort of dislike that person for that moment, was just being who they were. They made me see in myself attributes that were bad, things that were faulty that I was carrying around. I'm not going to go into the what per se, right? Just know that I have faults. And just know that somebody brought them out, and just know that a lot of what they did to bring them out wasn't even to say, hey, look, do you see this about yourself? It's not what happened, largely. They did that a little bit. Not on purpose, maybe. But the real important thing was that by example, they showed me, look, dude, you have issues and you need to deal with them. And again, if you said to that person, did you intend to make Kurt feel like he had all of these faults or these issues? They'd go, no. No, I didn't have any intent to do that. I was just talking about what I was doing in my life. That was it. Right? And so this is something that I think we all need to realize too. And that is that when you get to the point where you start to recognize that you have faults, and the people showing you, I'm going to air quote here, people showing you that you have faults are not even openly trying to do that. They're just doing their thing, right? Yet they show you very obviously, they point out to you very obviously, that's a fault you got there. And you go, wait, hold on. Maybe you'll get to a point if you can do that, where you will start to deal with your faults, and maybe even you'll start to see them without other people necessarily pointing them out. And that to me is a really good thing. When you can look into your own life and you can say, what do I need to work on about me? There's a Jewish concept that I think starts with the new year. I think that's when it is. In which the thing that you're supposed to do in that time is to soberly reflect on your past in order to consider what you can do to make a better you. Okay? I think that's correct. You could ask a Jewish person that you know who is a practicing Jew. I mean, not a person by origin so much as a person by faith. You could ask them if there is a time in which there's basically a time of self-reflection for people, and then in that time of self-reflection, the people in question are to look at themselves and to seek out those things that are problematic within them and work to correct them. I think this is a really wonderful idea, and I don't think it's something that you should do once in a while or once a year or whatever. I think I get the idea of doing it once a year and sort of setting a time when you do that. But I think that we need to get to the place where we constantly are looking at ourselves and going, what are my faults? What do I need to fix? And let me tell you, it's not easy, because you don't want to do that. First of all, I don't want to admit that. What do you mean I admit my faults? What are you talking about? Nobody really wants to do. Well, again, are there people who want to? Probably, because they probably have realized the value in doing so and the corrections that have made their lives better as a result. But it's a hard thing for me to do, and I have to acknowledge that. And I have to accept that. But like I say, more importantly, I think what I need to do is work on self-reflection that will help me to come to a conclusion about what's wrong with me. And I don't think I'm alone in that. I think lots of people are there. All right, I'm coming up on the end of my time, and I'm going to try and actually start rolling it out a little quicker today, because I know that I tend to be going over a lot recently. Again, thank you for joining me today, and thank you for listening to the whole message. Look at your life, look at the faults, try and do what you can to fix them. See what you can do to find them before other people do. Maybe it's a little bit less embarrassing, among other things. Anyway, thank you for joining me, whether you're on Rumble, on YouTube, on the podcast. Again, the subject today has been admitting fault. Tomorrow's subject is going to be an interesting one. It's feelings and actions. And this, again, was spurred by a conversation with another individual, and I kind of wanted to talk about it. It's a cold day today, but not a horrible one. I'm glad to have people along. As I say, thank you for coming. I hope to get another daily summation out, tomorrow, and hopefully we will see you tomorrow as well. Again, thank you for joining, and hopefully we will see you again tomorrow. The speaker on this edition of the Daily Summation is Kurt Schubert. This video was recorded on Monday, the 1st of March of 2021. The Daily Summation is created for Kurt's Religion and Politics. Thanks for watching this edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I hope you found it entertaining or instructional, or maybe both. If you want to see more from me, you can go to blogs.kpschubert.com. That's blogs.kpschubert.com. I am on Twitter, Parler, and Minds.com. My handle on each of those is @kpschubert. That's @kpschubert. I have a Rumble and a YouTube channel. They are the Kurt's Religion and Politics channels on Rumble and YouTube. I have a Facebook page. The Facebook page is Kurt's Religion and Politics as well. I am on Patreon. If you want to support me, that's one of the better places you can do that. And you will find me at Kurt's Religion and Politics on Patreon. I have a podcast. The podcast is podcasts with an S, .kpschubert.com. That's podcasts.kpschubert.com. I think you should be able to find me with relative ease on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify as well. The best way I find to do that is to look for Kurt's Religion and Politics. You can try to use the Daily Summation. I find that it doesn't work as well as a general rule, but you can always try that. I'm glad to have you aboard today, and hopefully we will see you again tomorrow.